Welcome to the Piece by Piece Autism Podcast with your hosts, Angie and Christi. They've worked 25 years to help Alec get the most out of life. Let them tell you how they're doing it.
Welcome back. We're excited you're here joining us for another episode of Piece by Piece Autism Podcast. Today, we're going to continue our discussion about employment. In part one, we discussed preparing for, finding, and interviewing for a job. And today, we would like to chat about what's next now that you've got the job. So first and foremost, we want to discuss developing a routine where possible. Again, in part one, we kind of talked about at the interview, getting a tour of the workplace at the time of the interview, and this kind of prepares us for setting up procedures and routines when your child is beginning their job. So we've got a few examples to share with you. And one is a job that Alec had prior to his first official paid job. But this was a fun one we set up called Treat Yourself. Tell us about it, Christi.
We were really concerned about Alec having a job because he had expressed interest in having a job. We were looking around and thinking of every single thing we could think of, but finally we came to, hey, why don't we just start a cookie delivery to my husband's office? And we checked with the people in the office and they were fine with that. Mm-hmm. And so we started the weekly routine of making cookies. We bagged vegetables so that the people who couldn't have cookies or didn't want to have cookies would also have a vegetable option. And then put them in these clear plastic bags that you can get off of Amazon. And we got washi tape, and Angie and Alec and I would all just prepare this basket full of cookies and vegetables every week. And then we would take Alec into the office, and Angie and Alec would have their matching Treat Yourself shirts.
They were
which
so
are
cute.
Adorable. We had them made at Custom Ink, I think. And then they were just so cute. They had him on the back holding a basket. And this is not like a super expensive undertaking. It was a very affordable setup. And we got washi tape. So it's just different colored tape that would seal the cellophane bags. And the whole setup looked very neat. So people were willing to buy it. I think our price was under market.
Yes.
I think we were pretty much donating the materials, but Alec really got a lot out of doing the process of preparing the product,
right?
Getting it packaged, and then taking it and selling it and interfacing with the people, which I think he really enjoyed most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of good came from that with, knowing that I want to say we did it on like a Wednesday or something. I don't think we waited till Friday, but every Wednesday of the week, that's what his morning consisted of, was making cookies, which he enjoys helping in the kitchen that way. And then sitting down and counting out the veggies and cutting the tape and putting it in the proper spot. It took some focus and required him to really be engaged in all the steps of that routine, which again, like as we talked about in part one, finding opportunities to teach those skills that will then transfer over into other employment opportunities. That was a great idea you had, Christi.
Thank you.
Another routine that we found at his workplace when working at El Phoenix was clocking in and clocking out. This required him to pull out a card. We kept it on a lanyard, and he'd have to hit the screen to light it up. We had to type in a little code and swipe his card upon arrival, and then swipe the card prior to leaving. And so getting him responsible for knowing where to stop when we walked in, pulling that out of his bag, and holding the card in such a way to swipe it, all of those skills took some time and because we were able to do it twice a shift, and every time we were there, he got pretty proficient at that. But that was another routine we saw. And another we touched briefly on in part one was just the requirements for dress codes. Alec currently has to wear a hat to work, but hasn't always tolerated hats or helmets and things on his head. So we've really built up to that. And as Christy mentioned, he'll sometimes just wear it because he's, a cool.
He likes it
dude.
now.
He likes it, yeah. But we've had different restaurant shoes as part of a uniform at El Phoenix. Even though he was in there prior to the start or opening of the doors for patrons to come in, he still had his button-down uniform and his black pants and his vest and the whole 9 yards. And we really took that seriously to help him dress and feel part of the team with the
and I
dress
think
code
it's
there.
part of sending that signal that when we're dressed this way, this is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't discount those subtle things, signals that you're sending to your child
Yeah.
of how we dress this way when we go to church, and they pair the clothing with how their behavior should be or what the expectation will be for that day. And it kind of also prepares them for what's going to be ahead. Oh, yes, when I wear this black vest and I wear these particular shoes, that means I'm going to work.
Right.
That sort of stuff really speaks to Alec.
Yeah. One thing we would encourage you to do is in starting and looking for these routines as you're preparing to set your child up for success, I would just simply ask, would you allow for special accommodations to be made? Right now, Alec's current job working in a dish room, one of his responsibilities is to clean and sanitize the silverware. So it gets run through the dishwasher and then they sort it and it goes through this special sanitizing machine. After that, he pours them into containers and takes them over and matches them on a shelf with the other clean silverware so that the kitchen can come in and take them as they need them. But they've got a really wonderful visual that is nothing but setting these guys up for success with everything labeled very, very clearly. Bright yellow, bright, big, bold color or big letters on a bright color above where the forks go and the knives and the spoons. And so those kinds of accommodations hopefully would be available to your child in whatever work setting. And I think sometimes people just don't know how to support or what helps would be helpful. So
Right.
if you can find or recognize that, a little poster or paper on the wall would really help my child become more independent or proficient in something, then look at getting that set up for them. Another job Alec had in wiping tables at a restaurant, they had his own little section separate from where anybody else was pulling materials. He had his red bucket. We had our own little sink that we were able to fill our things up with, kind of away from the commotion of where all the other dirty dishes were put and placed and off to the side. So he could really take his time. We could go slow. He could do it on his own. And so having that separate area set aside for him was really beneficial and helped him to take ownership in that little part of his job. So those are just a couple examples.
Yeah, the thing they did at El Phoenix too that was super helpful for Alec is that we found that they first put us into a very large section, and that very large section had extended booths, that had regular sized booths, that had tables. So you've got three different kinds of setups that you have to clean. And we had to not only clean the tables, but we also cleaned the chairs or the booths. And so it was so nice whenever we were able to say, hey, this is kind of a lot. First of all, when you walked in and you just saw this huge section, I think
Overwhelming.
visually, yes,
Yeah.
visually just overwhelming. And we were like, what about that little section back there? And I think someone fondly thought of that section as their section, but we were able to get that section.
Yeah.
And it was so nice because that section only had four top tables. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it had a couple of round tables, so that added a little bit of variety, but they were still just chairs that we were
Mm-hmm.
cleaning. And he got quite good at cleaning chairs. So it was nice because then we could just look at that one section. He could just look at that one section and we could all just say, oh, yeah, I think we can get this done. Even if he has a seizure in the middle, we can still get it done
And
before
it was
people start filing in.
the cleanest section of the entire restaurant, guaranteed.
Absolutely. There were no beans smeared on the side of the table. Because some people, when they clean a table in a restaurant, they'll only clean the top of it.
Yeah.
And we cleaned like the edge of it where there was 9 times out of 10, a bunch of refried beans smeared all over that thing. So yay, our
Yay.
section was the cleanest.
Go,
I
Alec.
bet they miss us. I bet they miss us.
We consider ourselves good quality control, right? Alec did
Yes.
the work, but
Yeah.
you better believe we made sure it was done well.
We're great job coaches, if nothing else, Angie. We can really pat ourselves on the back for that. We're good at cleaning that section.
That's right. All right. We've gotten into the swing of things. We're getting into routines. Now that they understand routines and what job requirements are, can they do these tasks without constant redirection or next steps being told? So let the learning environment tell them what's next. My example here, I talked a little bit about Alec doing the silverware in the sanitation washing machine. He pulls these silverwares that have been separated by knives and forks and spoons and puts them into a plastic square bin. And this bin slides into this machine, and then you have to pull this big door down to close it before it will start. And as I was watching him do this with some of his team members at the beginning of his time here in the workstation, he would slide that thing in, and if it wasn't lined up right, it wasn't going. It would get stuck or it would be twisted sideways, or he'd push it too far or not far enough. And the team would just kind of automatically, you're wanting to jump in and help. And they would adjust it and, okay, now you can pull it down and whatever. So the help, I do that with air quotes, is truly not helpful because Alec is not learning the pitfall or the process in completion without somebody jumping in. And if somebody's jumping in, then aren't you more likely to say, oh yeah, you got it, I'm just going to step back? Like you totally disengage from your efforts. And that's very much how Alec seems to work. So we started saying, hey, if that door doesn't close, the dishwasher doesn't start, let's just stand back and let's see if Alec can self-correct. And the team member's like, oh, okay.
It's so hard to do that sometimes.
It really is. It really is. So
just standing back and letting him struggle.
Yeah. And that's not to say that we didn't give words of encouragement or tell him, hey, that corner's out, let's push this side in. Or, we were giving prompts. But now, of course, several weeks into the job, he doesn't always slide it in perfectly, but he does always figure it out without
the struggle
help.
taught him. Struggle taught him. And the beauty of his job now is that he is back in the back behind the scenes, and he can take the time to struggle with something and learn from it, where we're not like boom, boom, boom. All this food has to be out at a certain time. So we do have that luxury of having him be able to learn as he goes.
Just think of what ways your child can be told right or wrong by their environment prior to us jumping in and helping.
Next, we want to talk about relationships and goals within the workplace for guys like Al. And the first thing we would mention is kind of along the same lines of what we were just talking about, but in relation to coworkers. Sometimes his coworkers, especially in his current environment, will come and, quote, be helpful by kind of stepping over him and helping him get things done. And that does not let Alec do his job and doesn't let him grow. And it doesn't train the coworkers how to treat him or to allow him to do his job.
Right.
So he's got some fun relationships with his coworkers currently. It's fun because he only works 1 day a week,
Mm-hmm.
and the other workers are there. Are they there
I
seven
think it's
days a week?
5 or 6 days a week they're there.
5 or 6 days a
Mm-hmm.
week. And so when he comes in, he's the big rock star. Oh, Alex here. Oh, Alex here. And they all get excited. And it's so cute for him. I'm sure I mean, I hope he likes the attention.
Oh, he
I could
does.
see where it could maybe be overwhelming, but he's got a cute girl that comes up and, oh, hi, Alec. And we think she might have a little crush on him, but it's really cute. But it's like we want him to have these great relationships, but we also want people to be able to let him do his job.
Yeah.
And so we have to just let them know, hey, step back. He can do that. Just let him do that. Because
Yeah.
right there, then and there, he's not going to be able to pull his letterboard out and have a, conversation with his coworkers that way.
Right. Well,
So,
there's one
yeah.
individual. A lot of these guys are so impressive that he works with and have been doing this for years and years. They know the equipment really well. They're able to fix and foresee problems and jump in and do all these things that we as the job coaches are slowly sorting out the routines ourselves. But there's one there's one sweet guy who likes to give assignments. I think he's been there for so long. He sees himself as one of the bosses and he will point and you go do that. You need to take these over there. And there's been several times he's tried to get Alec to be his go-to guy. And I've just had to say for Alec, oh, sorry, man, we're working over here on cups, or actually we're busy taking care of this. So we can't get to that right now. So it takes some advocating for your child to not just take the advice or the direction from anybody there. But that also kind of leads us into our next point of like how to take feedback, or knowing who is the boss, who is it that we're responsible to report to. Yeah. And who do we check in with if Alec is sick or if your child's unable to make it, and make sure that you've got that working relationship.
And getting their cell phone number is really helpful.
That is helpful.
Because sometimes Alec is traveling, or Alec is this week he's with one of his old caretakers who's in town, and so I don't know that he'll go to work tomorrow.
Yeah. So we're lucky in a flexible job where we're able to say, hey, he can't make it this day, but we're going to come in on Thursday of this week or whatever it may be. And we've got that working relationship with his boss. But there at the job site, several of the coworkers see themselves as the boss. And I think just knowing kind of what those boundaries are and not being afraid to say, hey, we're taking care of our tasks here and you go ahead and take care of yours is appropriate.
Yeah, while still nurturing the relationships.
Right.
I mean, it seems to work.
Yes. Yeah. All good intentions. The group there is phenomenal.
When Alex started working, we talked about in the first part of this that making money is really important to him. He had expressed that to us. He really wanted to earn money because that's what a real job does, is give you money. Well, that was great. And we worked really hard to help him get a job with a paycheck. So he gets the paycheck, and then what do you want to do with the money? Well, his paychecks were about, I can't remember, maybe $15 a week. Some weeks.
Yeah.
Sometimes he worked more than 1 day a week in Dallas when he lived there. And so he made more than he is currently making. And they would sometimes slip in some money for tips. Like he got the tips divided up, which was
as the bus
such
boy.
a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool. And so he and Angie sat down and talked about, what do you want to do with this money? And he decided to set a goal to save enough money to take himself and his core group of friends to Great Wolf Lodge. And that was so fun to see. Like, long-term goals for him are very difficult. It's a
Hmm.
difficult concept, but like making a chart or every once in a while saying, this is how much you've earned so far towards your Great Wolf Lodge outing. I think it took, um, did it take a year and a half or a year?
Yeah, close to somewhere around there.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was a very long-term goal, but he did save the money and he paid for that trip. And then, of course, we reminded him several times, this is so nice that you worked hard and
Yeah.
paid for this trip. He, of course, loved the trip. It was just, it's one of his favorite things. So tracking your progress, being able to watch the money add up over
Hmm.
time, it was very gratifying for him and for us to watch him be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think having had that experience, it made him that much more motivated than,
Right.
now he's going, okay, I've had a paycheck and I've been able to see the fruits of my labors and enjoy spending that money. So that's kind of what he's continued to seek after employment with pay. And again, through his experiences and all the different employment opportunities he's had, he knows he brings value to the workplace. And while
Yes.
he doesn't know it all and he doesn't pretend to, come in and be the boss, he's very humble to come in and be willing to work and willing to take direction and stay focused and on task with the help of his team member. But he brings value and he's confident in that. And we assure him that he is valuable and deserves to be paid for his efforts like anybody else that's 27,
Right.
28 years old looking for a job. His worth is as good as anybody else's. So,
Exactly. And we've been really fortunate. He grew up around other people who had similar autism diagnosis that he
right.
had and has. And the other parents would say to me, "You're so lucky he has this intrinsic desire to work and to
Mhm.
focus." And we are really fortunate that way. It's been really nice that, I mean, of course, his behavior along the way has been a challenge, but he's he is in a spot where he really does get intrinsic joy out of working
Yeah.
and seeing the fruit of his labor, and it's really been fun to watch him, and it's been heartwarming to watch him develop as an employee and as a contributor to society.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been great finishing our discussion about employment today. This is part two of a two-part series on employment. And today we covered developing routines where possible so that you can get into the groove of whatever the job is that your child has. And then we talked about letting the environment teach and be able to kind of develop the employment task along the way by just allowing for growth and confidence building by letting your child make mistakes and letting them try to figure things out. And then also, we talked about relationships and goals, getting used to your coworkers and how you can work together and how you can take feedback. And we also talked about goal setting and how, what are you going to do when you get this paycheck, and what goals are you going to set, and how that can drive the continued progress within the job. So we hope this has been helpful and informational. We've enjoyed showing and talking about some of the job experience that Alec has had. It caused us to be able to reflect back and see just how much he's grown from his
Yeah.
cookie business that started many years ago to where he is now, where he can go in and enjoy his coworkers and enjoy learning.
Yeah, he's had lots of opportunities and we hope that you can find similar and areas of interest for your own children. So, That's a wrap for today's episode of Piece by Piece. We love that you are here. We hope that you will help us spread the word and share the show. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Piece by Piece Autism Podcast. That's PIECE, Piece by Piece Autism Podcast. We will look forward to talking to you next time. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.